back to Kindling channel, story lovers. My name is Awe, your storyteller, here to share with you African folk tales with moral lessons. We're visiting another island nation today, the Comoros Islands. Located in the Indian Ocean, Comoros is an archipelago that lies between Madagascar and Mozambique and is known for its volcanic islands and lush tropical landscapes. It's often called the Perfume Islands due to its production of lang lang, a key ingredient in many luxury perfumes. Comoros is also described as being as close to paradise as one can imagine, and its warm waters make it a haven for marine life and coral reefs. The islands also have a rich cultural blend of Bantu, Arab, and Malagasy influences, reflected in their storytelling traditions, language, and culture. Now, today's story is entitled The Pauper and the Pot of Rice, and teaches us about the benefits of changing our perspective when confronted with a difficult problem. Let's hear it. Once, long, long ago, there was a small village on the island of Comoros, nestled between the rolling hills. Now, in the daytime, the laughter of children was carried on warm breezes, and spice farmers worked beneath the scent of sweet flowers, and the rhythm of the tides teased the fishermen casting their nets. And at night, all was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of palm trees swaying in the wind. Now, one such peaceful evening, the deep sound of a hunting horn echoed through the village. Now, in the Comoros Islands, this horn was a call that could not be ignored, for it usually signaled some important news or a message from the king. Within minutes, the curious villagers had gathered in the square beneath the tall baobab tree. The town crier, standing on a raised platform, cleared his throat and spoke in a firm voice. By order of the king, whoever can spend the entire night in the reservoir near the palace shall receive a reward of 500 francs. Now, in those days, the rich and powerful kings would often find ways of amusing themselves, sometimes at the expense of ordinary people. A murmur spread through the crowd as they contemplated this announcement. Now, the reservoir was shallow, its water barely reaching a person's knees, so it seemed that the task should be easy enough. But this was the cold season, and at night the wind swept in from the sea, carrying a chill that could settle deep into a person's bones. The thought of standing in the freezing water from dusk until sunrise sent shivers down many people's spines. One by one, the villagers shook their heads and declined the challenge. No one dared to take up the contest, except for one man named Lazar. Now, Lazar was a poor man, his clothes worn from years of hardship. He often went to bed hungry and did whatever little work he could to survive. Certainly, 500 francs was more than he had ever dreamed of, and so he stepped forward, his voice steady. I will do it. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Lazar waded into the reservoir. The icy water gripped him immediately, numbing his feet and creeping up his legs like an unwelcome guest. But he clenched his jaw and held firm. Unbeknownst to Lazar, his mother had followed from a distance. She was a sharp woman who loved her son dearly. And after watching her son enter the cold water, the old woman came to a slope some distance from the reservoir. There, in the clearing, she gathered some wood and built up a fire, letting its flames dance in the darkness as she sat by, humming patiently. Down in the reservoir, Lazar heard his mother's voice and saw a tiny light flickering in the distance. Now, although he could not feel the warmth of the fire, he saw the glow against the dark sky, and it gave him courage. With his mother's encouragement, Lazar endured the freezing night, and when the sun finally rose, he staggered out of the water, exhausted but triumphant. As he walked up to the palace to claim his prize, the villagers cheered him on, and everyone was pleased for him and remarked that he was indeed a worthy recipient. But when the time came to receive his reward, the king frowned suspiciously. No, 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 no. You don't deserve this money. Your mother lit a fire, and that kept you warm. The crowd fell silent. Lazar was dumbfounded and confused. Surely he had done exactly as instructed. Why was he now being punished? Desperate, he turned to the village elders, who then advised him to seek the help of a man named Bunwaswi, a trickster who was known throughout the kingdom for his wisdom in all matters. Now Lazar wasted no further time. He found Bunwaswi and told him everything. After listening, the old man nodded. Do not worry. Go home now, but come to the village on Friday. I will handle this. Lazar did as he was told and returned home. On the Thursday, Bunwaswi came to the village and prepared for a great feast. He slaughtered an ox and several goats and invited everyone to eat before Friday prayers the following day. When the villagers arrived the next morning, they found large pots filled with meat and rice. But something was strange. The pots had been placed several meters away from the fire. Now, the king, who had come to oversee the gathering, watched in some confusion. Why are the pots so far from the fire? He asked. Bunwaswi smiled. I'm cooking the food, Your Majesty. The villagers murmured. The king shook his head. Nonsense. The food will never cook this way. Fire placed at such a distance cannot warm the pot. Well, Bunwaswi turned to him. But sire, was it not you who claimed that a fire far away could warm a man in freezing water? Silence. The villagers looked at the king, waiting for his response. He cleared his throat and sighed. You are right, he admitted. Lazar has earned his reward. And so, at last, the king was forced to keep his promise. Lazar received his 500 francs reward, and though he did not become rich, he lived a far more comfortable life than he had before, all thanks to the compassion of his mother and the cleverness of Bunwaswi. And that was the end of the story. A few things to unpack there. Despite many difficulties, Lazar's perseverance, resilience, and determination paid off in the end. This story also demonstrates how shifting your perspective can sometimes reveal the truth. Lazar himself was unable to see the flaw in the king's reasoning until Bunwaswi presented his case in a way that no one could deny. Finally, we see in this story that whilst as individuals we can endure many things, it is only with the support of others that we will truly begin to thrive and prosper. Ubuntu is a Southern African philosophy that emphasizes interconnectedness, compassion, and the idea that a person is a person through other people. It teaches us that our well-being is tied to the well-being of others, and that kindness, fairness and community are essential for a just society. Now, in this story, which is from a different part of Africa, Ubuntu is still reflected in the way that we see how Lazar's mother, the village elders, and Bunwaswi all stand by him. They recognize that injustice against one person affects the whole community. Bunwaswi's wisdom not only helps Lazar, therefore, but restores fairness to everyone, showing that true strength lies in solidarity and shared responsibility. There's so much more that we can continue to learn from these old folk tales, and it's clear that the lessons that they carry are as relevant to us today as they were in the past. Join us again next week as we wind our way through this treasure trove of tales, sparking imagination, motivation, and hopefully inspiration too. Please like and share this video and subscribe to Kindling to keep the fire burning.